Come right on.
A side event that we went to with Linda. You want me to talk about that, do you, Tony? It was a workshop for the school board up in Columbia. And there were about a half a dozen of us went, and you may have seen it made the newspapers, it even made TV, that we all had a little something to say. And you know, the school board is...
Hello?
The school board is kind of an august group. They sit like this when they say that you can talk. They do this, you know. They kind of lean back in their chairs and they listen to you because essentially it rolls off. But what I was really impressed with was we were there to talk to them about Common Core, and each and every one of us took a different aspect of Common Core. It was not rehearsed. We rode up in cars together and never talked about what we were going to say. The one talked about a lagging curriculum that stepped back in English and stepped back in math. Another talked about the data collection, which essentially is going to track children from pre-kindergarten. You're missing it right now. Sit down. Sit down, shut up. You're going to track them all the way up through their work career, talking about the complexities of the program. And mostly from my point of view, which I didn't speak of, but someone else did, was that it's a propaganda pipeline, which gives Washington, of course not at the outset, you know, they're not going to be involved in putting things in books and everything, but over time, it's going to creep into the curriculum. I know that Pearson, who is one of the biggest publishers right now, they have a history and social studies book out, which doesn't deal with Christianity at all, but it has 32 pages of bullshit, excuse me ladies and men, of bullshit about the Muslim faith. 32 pages of false history, 32 pages, and that's how it's going to get into the children. Unfortunately, the people on the Oversight Committee and the school board can't seem to see that. But I can tell you this, that we were all stars. We so impressed them that in fact, Linda got a personal card from Mick Zase. Mick Zase, as you know, is opposed to Common Core. She got a personal card that said, I want to thank you and your people for coming up, and we appreciate your input. You know, you're very kind to do that for us. We know it's a personal risk, which it is. You know, people take our pictures and they get our names and information. Anyway, I wanted you to know that the people who represent you on Common Core, I'm proud to say I'm the newest on the block, but I'm part of it. I want to let you know that we're working on it. In that vein, with the long-term strategy of the people who are organized to keep pressure on Common Core decision makers, the long-term strategy is to acquire a list of names, phone numbers, emails, addresses of people who are willing to put their shoulders behind the effort. It goes something like this. No one gets this information except SCPI, South Carolina Parents Involved in Education. We're kind of a chapter of that, Greater Charleston, GCPI. And no one gets this information, but when it's time for us to make a push against the legislature, we will use this information to get in touch with you and ask you to do something. It may be sending cards, it may be making phone calls, it may be showing up at a demonstration. It's entirely up to you what you do. But the information for you to take action will be coming out from a central source, and you're only going to get it if you sign up on these boards. And so I strongly urge you to lend your help to a group that essentially wants to save our children from essentially a propaganda pipeline. And that's my greatest fear, is that, you know, just about every despot in the world has said, you give me your children for a half a generation, I have your country. Because even Lincoln, I think Lincoln himself said, remember that the generation that's in your schools right now is your generation government in 20 years. And essentially everybody knows that. And you know, they've been trying to centralize education in Washington for about 100 years. It started with Wilson, it went through to Roosevelt, Clinton, and even Bush, No Child Left Behind. That was an attempt to centralize education. But the reason it's getting so terrific now is because there were $4 billion put in the stimulus plan to push it ahead. So please, don't hold back. Lend us your influence and lend us your availability, and pass those boards around. Keep them moving, and I'll be glad to pick them up at the end. Did I miss anything, Tony?
No, I don't think so.
All right, for those, excuse me, for those who sign up, I have here the name, address, and in most cases phone numbers of every single person in Columbia who is involved in education. It has the House Education Committee, the Senate Education Committee, the school board, and it has the Oversight Committee, who's having a meeting. Tony will mention that to you in a minute. And if you sign up on the board, I'll give you this. I'll even give it to you if you don't sign up on the board, because what I want you to start doing is to start sending postcards. Postcards to anybody on the list. Start at the bottom, start in the middle, start at the back. Just keep sending postcards that say, Stop Common Core, and your name, and the name and address, and your return on the front. Believe it or not, this has a major influence on the decision makers. So let me, whether you sign up or not, you ought to have this. I mean, you ought to be willing and able to shake a tree when you're in. Take that. Did I exceed my 5 minutes, sir?
You're right on.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Did you sign up, folks? You interested in helping out?
We're waiting
You're
for,
not?
learn more before.
Speak a little bit tonight about
You don't need that
the
anyway.
parents involved, South Carolina parents involved in education, SC5.
This ties in with what Roger just said. This is kind of what you get. It's an action alert. This action alert says that the South Carolina Education Oversight Committee, that is a group of individuals appointed by the governor's office, the legislature, the Senate and the House, and other government entities, to perform an oversight committee that makes recommendations to the Department of Education about what they should be doing. This committee has got a retreat scheduled on Thursday.
Sure, I bet. I remember we were up there at Goose Creek.
South Carolina. There's two things on their agenda. The first thing on their agenda is going to be the history and science portions of Common Core. Now, South Carolina is in the process right now of implementing the math and English portions of Common Core. We signed on to that in 2009 without ever seeing what Common Core was in order to get our name in the pot to get a bunch of money. Well, South Carolina didn't get any money, but we got on the hook for Common Core. There were two piles of money that were given out. One in 2010, the other one was in 2012. We got our name in the pot for both of them. We didn't get any money either time. But we're on the hook for the Common Core program because we signed up for it. Now they're getting ready to come out with the history and science portions of Common Core. Again, it's not written. But hey, sign up for it. The government, the federal government, has no right to be involved in education, okay, by the Constitution. Ain't part of what they do. What have they done? Show me the money. They dangle money and say, if you do this, we'll give you this money. And every state jumps in and takes the money. That's how the federal government controls something they have no constitutional authority to do. Just pointing this out to you as an example of what happens with Common Core. Now, these people on this Education Oversight Committee don't have the authority to implement Common Core. But what they will do is they will vote on a resolution approving or disapproving the history and science portions of Common Core. Those recommendations will go to the state school board. The state school board overwhelmingly voted to accept Common Core over the superintendent's objections. In fact, they told Mick Zace they'd sue him if he didn't shut up. And that's a fact. The other thing they're going to bring up at this meeting, this is the part that really bothers me, because I think it's a total violation of the Fourth Amendment, is there is a software program created by Bill Gates' group that's part of this. That tracks 1,500 data points of children from pre-K to 20 plus. That is from pre-kindergarten to when they're in the workforce. That information is available to all government agencies. It's available to major employers. So if you've got a little grandchild out there that showed his ass in the first grade and gets written up for it, and then he gets ready to go to college, and he submits his application to college, and this school looks up his record and sees that Johnny was a kind of a little bit of a problem as a child, that's going to follow him. I think that's a violation of the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. But that's the other thing that they're going to pass a resolution on. Well, I ain't going to tell you whether it's going to be for or against, because I have got no idea.
Are these the people that are going to be voting on that, or is it, who is that that's going to be doing that?
The Oversight Committee is one of your pages.
Oh, okay, it's on the back. On the back? Okay.
Okay? So, phone calls, postcards, I wish I brought a postcard with me. I didn't think of postcards. Do you have any postcards?
No, but they're on sale.
Yeah, John.
Wanted to mention that the phone numbers for the legislators are in their state house offices, and they do have staff there, but they're not checking their messages very often when the legislature is not in session.
No problem with that, call me, because I probably got their.
Well, John, I get your point, but the legislators are not at this meeting, the meeting
Right,
that he's
it's the
talking
state
about.
school.
Well,
Right.
I may be able to
It's-
fix you
No,
up.
it's the Oversight Committee.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, all right.
That's me.
Postcards, folks, postcards, go buy some and send
You
some.
wanted 3 minutes? All right, you got it.
All right, outstanding. Many of you probably know that the South Carolina General Assembly, the Senate,
Push my chair.
has a 28 to 18 majority of Republicans, but that doesn't mean that conservative legislation passes the Senate. If you want to stop Common Core and have school choice and eliminate the state income tax and pass a bill that the Senate has to prevent Agenda 21 from being implemented, we need conservatives in the Senate. And Robert Ford resigned from the Senate because of ethical violations that he was being charged with. He didn't want to fight that. And now we have an opportunity in a special election to elect a conservative Republican, Billy Schuman, in that district, which is most of North Charleston, a little bit of West Ashley, and some of downtown. And there are a lot of newcomers in that district. There are a lot of young conservatives who we've never reached out to before. And this is going to be a grassroots campaign. So if you have a computer at home, please go to voteschuman, SHUMAN.com, and you can get updates. We're going to be at Fort Dorchester High School at 9:30 Saturday, and we're going to be dropping off these flyers. The special election is October 1st. Most people won't even know that there is a special election. So we're going to Republican households. There are 8,000 Romney voters in Senate District 42. We get about half of them to turn out and vote. Billy Schuman will be in the Senate. And he's a good friend of Paul Thurman, who's on the Senate Education Committee. And he's going to have a lot of influence and help change the character of the Senate into a more conservative Senate. So if you have any questions about how you can help, you can call me at either 709-7819, John Steinberger, 709-7819, or you can email me at chairman@charlestongop.org. I'm going to pass this clipboard here. If you've already signed up for being a Billy Schuman volunteer, you don't need to sign it again. This will go back on both sides of the room, and you can make a difference. So let's get out there and get another conservative elected to the South Carolina Senate.
Okay, moving right along here. You notice how everything is kind of poised tonight. Everything these gentlemen have talked about in some way is linked in part to this Agenda 21. So, anyway, tell them what's going on.
My name's Steve Anderson. On July 13th, we went to a meeting in Columbia. It was for the meeting for the Tea Party Patriots. And what we're trying to do is form a group. And it's called the Carolina Conservative United. And what this group wants to do is basically get rid of Lindsey Graham. It's an organization that basically lists what he hasn't done for the state. And what we've done is we've divided the state into what they call 7 different regions. And our region is Region 7. We go from Hilton Head kind of up to Orangeburg and to Bamberg. And in these regions now, if you go on the internet and go www.defeatlindseygraham.com, you can send in candidates that you think that will be a good candidate. Right now, we have Nancy Mace, which she's confirmed she's gonna go. Lee Bright, don't know yet.
Wait a minute. Nancy,
Mace, Lee Bright, which he's still thinking about it, and Richard,
Lee Bright?
pardon?
Who is
He's the Senator, Duke down there?
Spartanburg.
Spartanburg.
Thank you.
Okay.
it?
And,
Nancy is like the first female rep instead of one.
She is.
And so this Lee Bright is who?
He's a
He's a
senator.
state
State
senator.
senator.
Two-term state senator.
Yep,
He's outstanding.
yep. And Richard Cash.
He's got 100% conservative vote.
And what's Richard Cash?
He's probably in there, but I don't know, he doesn't run for
No, I'm saying Lee's right.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Conservative vote.
Well, we're talking about Richard Cash now, I don't know.
He's a business owner in Anderson County.
Oh, okay, she put a little pamphlet in there, if anybody'd like to read it. But, we're really needing candidates now. So if you go on that website and tell them that you're from District 7, and you've got a good candidate that you want to suggest, you know, at the bottom, and input on them, yeah, please, submit that. When it's all over, if we don't consolidate and vote for one candidate, Lindsay's one.
That's right.
If you don't stand behind the one candidate that you pick, Lindsey Graham's gonna be senator.
You can't have a fiasco like we had when Senator Sanford got elected.
Exactly, and this person is gonna have to go after him. They can't pull what John McCain and Romney did if they wouldn't go after Obama. They're gonna have to go after this man, otherwise he can get it again.
What's the name of the group? CCS?
It's www.defeatlindseyggraham.org is the thing, and it's the Carolina Conservative United.
www.
Defeat Lindsey Graham.org. Any input you have, we appreciate it.